I'm Jay. I'm Canadian, but I live in Australia now. I've spent the last 25 years working with bamboo. And for me, it's been an interesting journey because where I'm from, doesn't grow there. It's too cold. In going to Australia, I've encountered this incredible plant. What I'd like to do today is have a chat with you because there is a journey with bamboo in understanding the material, not only what it can do in the sense of creating. For me, it began with making small crafts, recycling in small projects, building arts with this material, being able to split and to weave it and to use it in its bigger context, to build towers, to get off the ground, to go vertical, to allow a sense of play and enjoyment. So all these are structures that we've made through the years as part of a collective. It's been a way to utilize the resource and to understand more about its potential and what can be done with it, not only as a craft and materials, but also as a structural element, being able to build large outdoor spaces with minimal effort, and also without having to use timber, because timber ends up becoming an expensive resource when bamboo itself is plentiful. This is a small project we made for a small cafe where we, with the participants, harvested all this bamboo, and I taught them how to harvest and to treat the material. And then we let it dry for 2 months, and we came back and we built this structure over a weekend, over 3 days. Same for another place in someone's backyard. We built another structure in the same process, building smaller, lighter structures. And then to be able to sculpt with it and make art installations, more and more larger base structures for festivals all over the world. This one's in New Caledonia, in the French islands. The other one was in Australia. This is one also in Australia, building big structures using sacred geometry. This structure itself is 21 meters tall. This is 14 meters in diameter. It holds almost 300 people inside, just with bamboo and material to stretch between. And it goes almost 12 meters tall at its fullest height. We'll be building a tower like this that we're going to utilize to create a treatment system over this next few days, how to construct, how to build, how to use the material to its maximum benefit. This is another installation piece that was created. You can see the scale of it. We took it to the center of the desert of Australia and then put light on it. And we create these incredible spaces, all made from a material that we think of as a grass or a waste material. In the center of the city, creating utilitarian structures. This is in South America, where we built small cottages in the rainforest. And you wouldn't believe it, but this is in the middle of Ireland. We built a massive, big structure as an entryway to a community space. And there's our full height of that one structure we saw before, made up of a lot of bamboo, but this is almost 21 meters in height. So there we have lots of potential with the ability to go beyond what we can normally do with timber with this versatile material. Bamboo is the one. More towers, more shapes. And this is probably the biggest structure that I've built. These towers themselves are 31 meters tall. So this is 10 stories. The structure itself, we took 2.5 months to build, but these towers are 31 meters in height and are built only with rope and bamboo, and created a whole centralized structure that holds 21,000 people under one space. So there's some ideas what I've done. And now we can show you some of the benefits of the material itself. So bamboo is not a tree, it's a grass. It's a giant grass. And it grows everywhere, pretty much globally on the planet. And there are 1,400 different species. So within Kenya, I think there is 14 varieties that are here that are commonly found. So you can imagine there are 100 times that on a global scale. And it grows mainly around the equatorial element of the globe. It has specific areas. It doesn't like the extreme cold, but can handle cold. So in China, you will find it in areas that have snow. And it might not be the giant size variety, but there are certain species that will be able to handle the cold. Here we have Kenya trapped in here. So it's within this bandwidth of being an excellent to grow. Mainly it needs water and sun to grow proficiently. So it's one of the fastest growing plants on the planet. As it comes out of the ground, it can grow its full height. We have one species over here called Dendrocalus gigantea, and it will grow almost 30 meters in height, but it can grow within a 2-month period. So 8 weeks, which means you can get a maximum growth rate of almost 900 millimeters within a 24-hour period. It can also produce 5.8 times more biomass compared to any forest species that's out there. And the fact that it always keeps giving. So here you can see some, these are very similar to the ones that are here. I think this is Lattice floris, actually a moso. And you can see the growth rates as it plunges forward. By the time it's day 15, it's over your head. And then it makes an accelerated growth by its 23rd day, right up to the sky. As this plant grows, it has very big benefits for the planet. And this is why it's being sought after by the West, because we have this whole problem about rising carbon on the planet. And the key element is that it has the ability to sequester carbon because the plant is never killed. So as it grows, we are selectively harvesting poles from inside the clump. We never actually cut it down altogether. Where trees control carbon and they emit oxygen, when it's chopped down, we stop that cycle, where in bamboo, it continually happens on a daily basis. So you can see up to 21 tons of carbon per hectare per year. And that would be the same here. That's in South America, this guadua and angustifolia. If compared to something like the dendrocalamus that we have just in behind, the giant bamboo, the dragon bamboo, it would be very comparable with the amount of sequester. Here's a basic cycle you can see. We have this constantly, the CO2 and sequestration of carbon. The same is happening with trees. But with the trees, we have an erosion sort of element that happens. Every time we harvest, we have massive soil erosion. Where in bamboo, we're only selectively harvesting. So in that selectively harvesting, we're actually capturing the soil and keeping this erosion process from happening. And in the end, it's labor intensive, which means the money actually gets back into the hands of the people who are working on it, rather than it being taken away by big industry. This is what we end with forestry, wherein that stable ecosystem is held together on the other side. So it grows in a variety of substrates. It can handle wet and dry, but prefers wet. And it doesn't need fertilizers or pesticides in order to perpetuate its growing. Because what it does is it grows, it perpetually is dropping leaf matter and culms, and it creates a biomass on the floor, which is broken down for the plant itself. It has an incredible ability to actually grab a hold of soil. So we come up along this really steep country. One of the biggest problems you have is when there's big rainfall, you get landslips where the land will fall away because of the rain. Because of the way the root system is created, it encapsulates the earth, encapsulates the soil. And therefore, it, even through big elements, I can show you one here. This is in my local area where I had this tree, this whole line was filled with trees. You can see one of the trees falling into the river. It was lined with trees and one clump of bamboo. The water came up 7 meters in height. And as the river flushed along, it tore apart and peeled off the whole asphalt and the whole of the road. It's gone. It peeled it away from the force of the water. And the only thing that maintained itself along this whole embankment is this bamboo, which when you see the size of the trees that were there before that, up to this scale, they're gone. It basically eroded away the root system and the tree fell into the water and washed away. The root system as a plant has the unique ability to be able to draw not only moisture from the soil, but also pollutants. So it works very well as a mop crop, which means it's cleaning the soil as the water runs through it. And because of all this leaf matter that's always falling, it's putting silica into the soil. For the soil regeneration, there's a 4,000-year plant-human relationship where traditionally we've been using it for tools, for basketry. Some of the oldest baskets they've found of 2000 BC from Japan. And you can see the traditional uses, the ability to make basketry finer and finer from the product. I've visited a place in Thailand where they would be splitting the bamboo and splitting the bamboo down to its fine fibers. They were able to actually make containers that could hold water. And that's how fine the weaving ends up being. So these are elements that we need to bring back into the use of bamboo. Not only the manufacturing of it, but also the traditional crafts, because this is where it all begins. And when you look at the plant itself, it's divided into 4 different areas. You have an upper culm, the top of the plant, which is your leaves and your branches. This has a lot of arts and crafts and medicinal sort of elements. We have a mid culm, where normally we make furniture and houses from, and the bottom for houses and construction and charcoal because of its woody base. And then the basic foot of it contains food, it controls your watershed, erosion control, toxic cleanup, charcoal, and medicinal. So it's just, the plant just keeps on giving and giving in that sort of respect. Then we actually go into a health benefits when you start looking at the culms itself. Like we have all these sort of aspects because of the minerals and the nutrients that can contain within the bamboo. And of this is the edible sort of portion of the plant itself. And when it shoots up, we have the potential of being able to turn this into food. What we'll do is we'll chop this one up so we can see how it actually is made. This is a cross-section of this big root system. And this is the lines of normal bamboo. So as it's growing out of the ground, it continually just stacks itself up ready for the next rainfall in order to grow its full height. Over the next few days, we're actually going to be engaging a bamboo charcoal kiln. So we are going to actually be probably doing maybe 4 or 5 burns because we've collected enough waste material from the plants. Because our whole process here is that when we start harvesting bamboo, within it, we have young shoots, we have older shoots, and then we have the very old that's no longer viable. And that unviable material can be chopped up and then burned under control with less oxygen. And once you burn it off, you basically are burning off all the gases contained in it. And all you're left is the skeleton of the plant. And at a microscopic level, it's filled with this, all these little nooks and crannies. And when you take 1 gram of charcoal, which is this size, and you unfold all this surface area inside, it's the same size as a tennis court. That's how much surface area is contained in it. What lives in those little spots, we can actually put this back to the soil in the form of biochar. Now, that means it encapsulates space for microorganisms in the soil. So growing soil has a wetting agent because it can capture moisture inside there as well. And it stays in the soil. It doesn't run off in the same fashion as when you have big erosion. This is one aspect that we're going to do with the biochar. But then there's also the element of making carbon from it in the form of charcoal. Because one of the big issues that you have in Kenya is cooking. Finding a way to make charcoal from all this resource that's available is a key element. And over the next few days, we'll be doing that. So bamboo has a lot of historical sort of elements. The first light bulb was created with bamboo fiber. The first phonograph needle was the same, using bamboo as the stylus. And the first airplane was created with it. So all these sort of elements are part of its history or the Western approach to looking at the material. This is from Hong Kong, where they utilize it to build the scaffolding around multi-story buildings because of its flexibility and its strength. So up to 20 stories, and there's a whole guild of individuals who build these incredible bamboo scaffolding around the outside. And now we're at a unique time because the world is calling out for bamboo because it can make just about anything from it. And you as the farmer, you have the potential of creating this stock, this base material in which to make all those elements there, from toilet paper to cutlery to furniture to everything else in between. A few years ago, I went to a big conference in China, and I was amazed by the versatility that they've come up with. Once they have manufactured the bamboo, they were making this is a windmill turbine. So these blades are about 20 meters long. But what they've done is they've made it with the laminates from bamboo. They were doing underground piping with it. So there's a whole framework of the material in being able to manufacture it in a manner once it's processed to make everything from floorboards to beams to wall sections to stumps. So all the base material that you have on your farm, all that base material that you are growing can be made into this. It's just a matter of step by step in, first of all, keep it growing and harvesting it. And eventually there will be a larger scale industry that will follow around and will process it. There's a place in Nairobi called Kefri. And at Kefri, they have actually some of the initial stages of this processing, being able to take the large bamboo columns like this and split it into multiple sections. And then from those multiple sections, you're able to put it through a thicknesser and make small sections and glue them together. And that's where the benefit comes. One of our key elements is the harvesting technique. This is the most important element of the bamboo in the sense that it has a life cycle of about 5 to 7 years. When the bamboo grows up first, this kicks through the ground with amazing pace, up to 25 meters in its first year. And it is still an infant. After that first year, it will keep growing, but it's still not ready to harvest. And that's the key element, is understanding this harvest cycle. And the more that you harvest it, the better it will grow. It is a grass, so the more that we chop it, the more it drops all of the energy back into the soil to grow more shoots. Looking at productivity increased 3 to 4 times by harvesting. It likes to be played with. It doesn't want to just be sitting there by itself. Now, there are certain times to harvest as well. This piece right here was probably grown in the last wet season. So it came up, and then when it hit the dry season, it stopped growing. And it remains dormant during that period of time. When it's dormant is the best time to harvest, because this is filled with sugars. So if I break off a piece here, you can pass that around. It smells like starch. It smells like sugar. That's what attracts the bugs. And it also means that you can eat this clump as well. As much as humans like to eat it, the bugs love to eat it. So the best time to harvest is in a waxing or dark moon. The moon affects the oceans. It moves the power of water in the oceans, but it also affects the power of water in the plant. So when the moon is dark, its force of drawing the moisture up to the top is not there. So it means that there's less starch and less food for the bugs and less for fungal growth. So we're looking at harvesting in the winter at a dark moon or waxing moon, the ideal time. And you're only harvesting poles which have lignified. And lignification means when the soft cell wall of this starts to turn into a wood. So at 4 years, the sugars draw back down. So it reaches its 4-year cycle. And then the saps and the sugars go back down to the ground, all that energy, and it kicks out the next shoot like that. The next pup. And we can go and have a look at a plant out there and you can see the process of it. So that is the key. We don't want to harvest anything that's under 4 years because the wall thickness won't be tough enough. It will not have lignified, so it wouldn't have become woody. It's too filled with moisture. And you will get something called the post-powder beetle that will come to eat it. So there's some harvesting here you can see. We'll look at how to distinguish how old the plant is. And a lot of it is based on the size, the thickness, the sound, and the coloring of the bamboo itself. There are two different patterns of growth for bamboo, and they are called sympodial and monopodial. One of them, I don't know if there's any of this in Kenya, hopefully not, but it's called a running bamboo. And when you go to China, they have areas in Yunnan province, which is in the south, that borders Thailand and Vietnam and Laos. There's whole valleys where this will run. It doesn't clump together. All the bamboos you have here, they clump in one spot and they will keep doing this where you have one pole and it will keep putting out this shoot, the grand shoot. Where in the rhizomial aspect of the running bamboo, it heads out sideways and it'll pop up and it'll keep on going. And that can cover whole valleys. And there's the basics of what a bamboo pole is. Normally you'll have this sheath node. So there's their node. This is the culm. And this is the area where it will branch, and they call it the sheath scar. So when we look at these big leaves, at each of these nodal points is where the sheath actually attaches itself until it gets up to an age and falls off. It's protective coating for the baby as it's growing. And then when it's done with it, it leaves it behind. Species can be determined. There's 1,400 species. They all have different aspects of how they grow. To tell the difference between them, this actual lithogram is a picture or a drawing of this plant. So you can see here, this is Latticeflorus gigantea. So there's books and books of all the different species, and they all have particular patterns of how they grow. It's based on how the base or the foot is, how the leaf shape is, how the culm sheath is. It's easy to gauge the type and species that is there.